It seems like the focus of the Chancellor today is going to be one of continuing to provide support right now with the view that we will have to pay for it in the future. And there is talk of further tax rises, particularly on the corporation tax front. Why do you think the UK is taking such a hawkish fiscal stance relative to the rest of the world?
I think if you look at the way the government has responded throughout the COVID crisis, they've been too slow to provide the economic support to get people through, and they've been too slow to bring in the health protection measures. So the real tale of this crisis in the UK, sadly, is one where the measures to protect people's health have been brought in too late, and the measures to protect people's jobs and the economy have also been brought in too late at the same time. And as a result of that, we've suffered one of the worst death tolls in Europe, and we've had one of the worst economic crises of any major economy. So we're in a very difficult position, and we're in a position which has not been helped by the fact that over the last 10 years, what the government has been doing in terms of its programme of cutting public services and increasing the level of insecure work for people across the country meant that coming into the crisis, we were in a difficult position. So as we now get to this stage of the pandemic, it's obviously vital that the government does everything it can to protect people and businesses and families throughout the remainder of the COVID outbreak, but also that they start thinking about rebuilding the economy on fairer foundations. You know, the COVID outbreak has exposed a lot of the inequalities and the weaknesses in our economy, the fact that so many people had very little savings, that people were working in very insecure jobs and so on. We need to rebuild a better economy, a fairer economy after this outbreak is past. And that's what we would like to see an indication of in the budget today.
Where does the Labour Party stand as far as tax hikes are concerned? And there's talk again of raising the corporation tax by 1 or 2 percentage points over the coming years. What is the Labour stance on that particular element of the budget? And would you support tax rises in general in the future if it would help shore in public finances?
So we've been saying that now is not the time for immediate tax rises, but in the longer term, it's in our DNA to want a fairer, more progressive tax system. And so we would look at whatever proposals the government brings forward, and we're very clear that over time, we need to make sure that the tax system is more progressive in the country.
James, I think perhaps you're being a bit harsh on what the British government has done to protect jobs compared with other nations. I look at the extra 10 million jobs that have been lost in the United States. I look at the 7.5% unemployment rate in Europe compared with a 6 handle before the crisis as well. And actually, by various estimates and various independent forecasters as well, the British system of furlough and what have you has kept many, many people in jobs that would have otherwise lost their jobs, at least 2.5%, according to the Bank of England so far. You've got to give them credit for something, keeping more people in jobs than perhaps would have been the case otherwise. I mean, the furlough scheme has been immensely successful, hasn't it?
Well, I think the fact that, for instance, today they have agreed to extend the furlough until September is going to be a massive relief for many workers and businesses who have been waiting for the government to confirm their plans. I think the problem with the government's approach is that it's always last minute. It's always this last minute scramble to provide support when the public cry for help becomes overwhelming. We saw in November last year when the furlough was extended last time, it was all done, I think with hours to spare. And again, it's always very much at the last minute that support is extended. What we need to see, and we've been saying for a long time, is a proper long-term plan which sets out the stability and security that people want. So with furlough, for example, what we've been saying is the government should make really clear that furlough will be in place as long as health restrictions continue and as long as there's a big impact on demand. We've been clear that support should be there. People should have the security and the knowledge and the comfort that is going to be there to get them through, rather than keep the government continually announcing extensions to packages at the last minute, which makes it very difficult for businesses to plan, and it adds to the insecurity and concern for workers not knowing what's coming around the corner. So from our point of view, the government has been too slow in terms of what it's done. There's also a really big issue about, a large number of people who haven't had any support throughout this crisis. Whilst the furlough has helped people who are employed, a lot of people who are in other forms of employment, forms of self-employment and so on, have not received any help throughout the crisis. So there's a big gap in terms of what the government has brought forward. And there's no getting away from the fact that we faced the worst economic crisis of any major economy. Now, that has two messages for me. One, we need to make sure that the support is there for people throughout the remainder of this outbreak. And two, the government must learn the lessons of the mistakes which it's made over the last 10 years in terms of its handling of the economy as we rebuild coming out the other side.